Welcome to the Kate Walker Training Podcast, where I talk about supervision and tools to help supervisees become amazing mental health professionals. Wondering about how to become a clinical supervisor? Well, you're going to need to know these three things. Hang in there and we'll explain everything to you. Hello and welcome to Kate Walker Training YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Kate Walker. I am an LPC and LMFT supervisor in Texas, and I am joined by my assistant, Jennifer. Jennifer, talk a little bit about you.
My name is Jennifer Fairchild. I have my master's in counseling. I attended West Texas A&M University, and I'm currently a PhD student at Texas Tech in their counselor education and supervision program.
At Kate Walker Training, we offer the first completely online LPC and LMFT Supervisor Training course in Texas. And I've been teaching the course face-to-face or hybrid, some sort of combination of the two since 2006. And so Jennifer and I, we see a lot of grading papers. We see a lot of folks asking questions. We get a lot of emails just wondering, how do you get the clinical supervisor designation in Texas? And so we're going to answer those questions today. And Jennifer, you've got some questions you're going to ask me. I'll do my best to answer. And I may even flip it back to you because you're really on the front lines, getting all those emails and getting all of the support questions and everything like that, which we love. We love your questions. We love all of the things that you send us to our support email because we want to make it easy for you to become a counselor supervisor. All right. So what are some questions that you've got, Jennifer?
So my first question we get asked quite often, and it is, what are the specialized clinical supervision training requirements?
Well, it varies from state to state. And if you go to your state's website and you go to your licensing website, you'll see the exact supervisor requirements. In Texas, you must have a 40-hour training. And that training has to be over certain elements. And I'll talk about that in a second. And you have to have been licensed for LPC and LMFT. For LPC, you have to be licensed 5 years. And for LMFT, you have to have been licensed 3 years or 3,000 hours. So most states, generally, you got to be licensed. You got to have some licensure under your belt. Now, whether or not your state requires a training or not, well, that's something you'll have to look at. But, this is probably one of the most important courses you'll take after you get your license. So supervising is probably one of the most important jobs you'll have once you get your license. So a course, whether your state requires it or not, is a pretty good idea. Actually, I think it's an excellent idea. So in Texas, you must have 3 clock hours for defining and conceptualizing supervision and models of supervision. The 40-hour training must have 3 hours for the supervisory relationship and counselor or marriage and family therapist development. You must have 3 hours for executive and administrative tasks covering supervision plan, supervision contract, time for supervision, record keeping, and reporting. You must have 12 clock hours for supervision methods and techniques covering roles, the teacher, the counselor, the consultant, the focus, process, conceptualization, and personalization, group supervision, and multicultural supervision, which is racial, ethnic, and gender issues, and evaluation methods. Now, remember, this is a 40-hour course, so you also must have 12 hours covering roles for supervision and standards of practice, subchapter B of this chapter, and then it refers you to the rules that we must cover. So if you're taking a 40-hour training in Texas, 33 hours are already designated for us. That does not add up to 40 hours. So yeah, there is some wiggle room there, but the state tells us what we must cover.
The next question we get a lot of is just people simply asking about the course.
Okay, so what's it made up of?
Yes.
I mean, if you drive to a training, if you're going to go sit through a training for 40 hours, let's think about that for a second. A 40-hour course is like a full semester course. So this 40-hour course, if you're going to sit through it like on your butt in a chair, listening to a teacher, and you're going to travel to do that, and you're going to stay in a hotel, I mean, it could be anything from like workbooks or death by PowerPoint or death by lecture. I mean, that's a lot of material that if you took the course in a doc program, you would have lots of time to do other activities over the course of a semester. So in an online course, ideally, you're going to have different things that you do, something to read, something to write, things to research, things to present. You want it to be as interactive and interesting as an actual college course. Some of the activities we do in the Kate Walker Training online, LPC, LMFT, 40-hour training, we have some of the more traditional modules. So you watch this much material or you read this much content, you take a quiz and you click and you go to the next part. So I think 14 to 17 hours of our course are in that more traditional online format. And that's what people are used to, I think. Where it gets fun, at least for us, we get to brainstorm at the end of every year. I asked Jennifer, okay, what did people love? What did people hate? And we really do listen to folks' comments, and we've thrown out some assignments based on comments, and we've added some in. And so we have something called a multicultural reflection paper, and we give folks some exercises to do where they get to explore their own biases, not so much to help them clarify, but of course it's good for that. But we want folks to think about, okay, how would you supervise this? Helping folks move into the role of supervisor. And okay, how are you going to teach this person in front of you to recognize their biases? So not only are we at Kate Walker Training helping potential supervisors create an anti-racist space for their supervision practice, we're helping them create practitioners who hold that anti-racist space for their own clients. So Jennifer, why don't you tell them about the contract and the plan assignment?
So that is actually one of the most important assignments that I really enjoy, because at the end of the course, you actually walk away with a working document that you can use with your supervisees. So we've always gotten a lot of feedback about people appreciating the work that they put into that assignment, because we try to give thoughtful feedback that's going to really help you develop a contract so that when you leave the course, you've already got that done. You can provide that to your very first associate. And the supervisor plan, not everybody will use, but it opens the door for them to look at those licensure laws that will impact the various elements of supervision that they encounter and why those are important. Why do we have to know the stuff about your notes and who owns the client records? It ties all back into the Texas Administrative Code, which I think is really important, because when a lot of people enter the course, they don't seem to have a robust knowledge of that code that guides us on a daily basis in practice.
Excellent. Yeah, we call it the OER triad. It's the orientation, evaluation, and remediation triad. And it's really what helps you protect your license as a supervisor, because your liability increases when you take on supervisees. So when folks can walk away with a working contract and a working plan, and they can start right away with their very first supervisee with this contract and this plan, it's such a great piece of information. It's like a warm, fuzzy blanket. It helps you make sure that you are mitigating liability to the best of your ability. And you bring up a great point, Jennifer. I mean, sometimes people going into the supervision or the clinical supervision field, they don't realize all of the laws that impact their supervisee, like being a records custodian, right? I mean, in Texas, associates can be a records custodian, and that's not the case in other states. So if you're watching this from another state and maybe your state doesn't require a 40-hour training, then you would want to look for some kind of a refresher course or some kind of a course that can help you understand what can go wrong with records, especially if your LPC associate has the ability to be their own records custodian, or even if they don't, even if they're working at an agency or a hospital. How are they delivering their informed consent to their clients? Do they even get to deliver an informed consent to their clients? That's the stuff as a supervisor you really need to navigate. Jennifer, what's another thing in our course that you feel like is really important?
I think one of the things people often skip over is the course outline. And I think the course outline really paints a great picture for people taking the course, that kind of navigates and kind of gives them an opportunity to see what to expect. Because at the end of the day, people feel like, I don't know what to expect. And the course outline.
And our course outline isn't just this dry syllabus. So an example of a course outline you'd want to look for is an introduction or an orientation to the course. You want an overview of supervision, an introduction to the integrated developmental model. You would want an overview of the assessment domains, theoretical models of supervision, technology and supervision, interview questions for supervisees, law and ethics for supervision, as well as how to review documentation, what we just mentioned, and how to navigate conflict and maintain the supervisory relationship.
So another question we get often asked is, who should take the course? And I know that seems like a simple question, but I do hear it quite frequently.
You should. Anybody should. And that's in case maybe your job is asking you to supervise as a site supervisor, and you may not even be ready for licensure. You may not even be ready for the supervisor designation. But a clinical supervision course is going to help you navigate these things, like the relationship, like what to do when you're evaluating and it's not a great evaluation. What does meet expectations really mean? Exceeds expectations. How do you deliver a remediation plan? I mean, even if you weren't planning to become a clinical supervisor, if your job was just saying, hey, we're promoting you to site supervisor, that's some really good information that you could use to do an excellent job on the job. And we all know that as a supervisor, whether you're a site supervisor or a clinical supervisor or both, you are impacting your community. And that's why we love what we do, because we know the more supervisors we can put out there, the more we, at least here in Texas, we're filling the gaps in access to care in rural and underserved Texas. And in Texas, we have a lot of space where there just aren't enough providers. And so if we can help put more supervisors out into the field, each one of those supervisors will be taking on supervisees who will see more clients, and we're helping to fill those gaps in access to care. So who should take the course? I think everybody should take the course. But seriously, if you have been asked by your job to be a clinical or a site supervisor, even if your state does not require a course is an excellent thing to do. If you're in Texas and you have hit your 5-year fully licensed mark, then take the course. The course itself in Texas is good for 2 years, so you can even take it at year 3. Hang on to that certificate and then submit that when you're ready to upgrade. And the designation, the supervisor designation, will renew every year along with your license. So I hope you understand now about the 40-hour training, why you need a 40-hour training, and how to make sure you get the 40-hour training, even if your state doesn't require it. We need you, and we need you to become a supervisor. So hit subscribe, hit like, leave us an awesome review. I'm Dr. Kate Walker, and
I'm Jennifer. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.